First time sparring tips. And I ask this because I've seen lots of people spar for the first time, and it usually devolves into, I take my right hand, I forget everything else, and I hit you as hard as I can.
Right, and then I come back and I hit you as hard as you can. Yeah.
Basically like a Rocky movie, but that's not the best way to spar.
Yeah, and it's certainly not. And thinking back years ago, that's how I first started sparring. Just, you know, like two people in a small room, just like throwing punches, no technique, nothing. So right away, what I recommend to everybody that spars is don't be concerned about landing punches. It's more about distancing, it's more about staying relaxed and staying safe. That's actually how you will land more punches. It's totally counterintuitive. But when people are just focused on like landing punches and that's it, it is no different than being focused on like playing basketball and all you want to do is put the ball into the basket and then that's it. Now, of course, that's the point, but you can't just do that.
You might need some footwork.
Weird, right? You may need to learn how to dribble. You may need to learn how to pass. There's other elements other than putting the ball into the basket, just like there's other elements than just punching people in the face.
Right. So distancing was one thing that you mentioned. Footwork's another.
Huge, 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 right? Also, as you start to spar, make sure it's supervised. Like there's somebody, so there's at least 3 of you, meaning that the third person is just somebody who is more skilled and more experienced. And at the very least, can jump in if things get too crazy.
Right.
Right?
Because you pop me in the nose, my ego flares. And
absolutely. And sometimes we just don't know that we are both punching too hard and going crazy. So you need that third person to jump in. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Of course, I have seen coaches stir the pot.
Oh yeah, that happens too. Yeah. That happens too.
Richie, you won't believe what Stefan was saying
about
you. Hey, Stefan. Yeah, Richie was calling your sister.
What?
Your sister.
Really? My wife? No, your wife, right? So, do you see how it can get like that, right? But...
So we're talking a sane coach.
Yes. A responsible, mature leader supervising the sparring session. Super important, right?
And what do you think, if it's my first time sparring, what do you think my goal should be? So it's not to punch your lights out. Yeah. It's not necessarily to land punches. What should I be coming away from that session
with? The number one thing is safety.
So with all my teeth, my nose not broken, and my brain not concussed.
Absolutely. That is the most important thing, is training is about surviving the training. Right? Like, so if we were lifting weights, it's like, hey, Stefan, you want to go lift some weights? Yeah, sure, I love lifting weights. I'm like, here, pick that up. Okay, I pick it up. And you injure your back. And then you can't get out of your car for 6 weeks because your back is injured.
Let alone do more stiff-legged deadlifts.
Yeah, let alone lift more weights. Yeah. So the training should lead to more training and better training and more skill development. So the number one thing out of all of this is to stay safe. Like that is really the foundation. So there's drills, there's procedures, there's things that we do so that way we can still exercise these inherently dangerous tools while still staying safe.
So what are some of the things that we would use to stay safe, or that you use with your students to keep them safe during
sparring? Well, I do this really goofy
Obviously
drill.
You're supervising.
Yeah. So that's the very first thing, right? So, you know, like there's somebody, there's a third person that's supervising, overseeing everything, making sure that people are going out of control. But as well, I have a drill it's like silly. I call it a Susan drill because Susan's my mom, and it's as if you were sparring with my mom, like tiny little elderly Asian lady. You're sparring Susan. You're not sparring me. You're not sparring Stefan. You're sparring Susan. So I call it the Susan drill. And there's a bunch of procedures to really make that come alive. And I almost always do it as a warm-up for my sparring classes at my schools.
So it puts people into the right mindset.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it puts everybody into the right mindset, and it establishes a certain rapport that you want to have for your training partner. So that's one of the procedures.
obviously gloves and mouth guard.
Yeah, the equipment, it's super important.
You're not a big fan of headgear though.
No, actually I'm not.
Why is that?
Well, there's a couple different reasons. One of which is that I don't feel the pain. Meaning that, let's just say that I'm sparring with somebody that's totally irresponsible. And they're just trying to, cut my head off with the right hand. Yeah. And the thing is that if you have 16-ounce gloves on and I basically have a pillow duct taped to my forehead, I can take a relatively hard shot and I'm okay. That is not boxing. That is not sparring to the degree that you are acquiring and attaining skill. That's foolishness. Mm-hmm. That's all that is. So we take away the headgear and we can then exercise more adept techniques like proper head movement, proper distancing. Also, you see how the headgear just makes my head bigger? Mm-hmm. Like it makes it more difficult for me to slip and move my head with efficiency.
It's gonna make it harder. You believe in the slip or believe in the duck because if you get clipped on the side of the headgear,
there you go. And it's like, oh, this slipping doesn't work.
Exactly.
For sure, it makes my head heavier because now my head is heavier, and it's just tougher for me to move my head.
It's also interesting to note that. I mean, nobody thinks that Thai boxers are pussies. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks they're crazy tough.
Yeah.
But their sparring is pretty light. They save the hard stuff for the Thai pads. Mm-hmm. That's when they go balls to the wall, full power kicks. Sure. They're fighting so often that they can't afford to destroy themselves in sparring. So they do
very smart.
A very light sparring, the technical sparring, timing sparring. They're not going out there and totally destroying each other every session.
For sure. For sure. I think that's a very, very smart way to train.
So that's what you sort of try to encourage in a kickboxing context rather than a Thai
Oh,
boxing
100%, absolutely. There's a time and place for everything. Mm-hmm. And I think it's critical to understand how to train as not just what we train, right? Let's just train some punches. Let's train some face punching today. Let's train that. Okay, great, but you're going to run out of training partners if that's all you're doing is just practicing punching each other in the face. There's ways to bring those techniques, make them come alive, really illuminate those techniques, but in a way that makes it so that way you want to train again and again, and you want to make the training fun. And because you won't want to train, it's just too punishing. It's just too painful. You won't have enough willpower. You'll just be like, no, let's just get some beer and chicken wings instead. That's what will happen, and you won't train. You won't work kickboxing at all.
So the goal of your first sparring session is to come back to your second sparring session.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but absolutely it is.
Awesome. All right, cool. Thanks so much, Richard.
Right on.